if you would please go ahead
Okay.
and start your recording, because
I'm starting that
I
now.
somehow don't see the okay, record to the cloud. Never mind, I
Yep.
just got it. So now I'm also recording. Okay, well, everyone, you can see me right now, and you can see the screen. I guess the science of cough tracking, and I want to welcome everyone today to this webinar, and we are recording this, and we're recording it so we can make this playback available on YouTube or other channels for your convenience and the convenience of others who may struggle with chronic cough. I've written down a few notes here, so I won't start off this without covering all the important things. So I'm going to read a few things to you folks before we get started. And first is, again, welcome to the Pulmonary Success Circles webinar on the science of the cough and managing the cough. Just something for you all to know is that all participants are muted and cameras off to the question and answer program, but the cameras are still on, so that's okay. I was going to tell you all you could check to see if there's anything in your teeth, or you check your nose and all that, because we wouldn't see you grooming. But sorry, the cameras are on, so you'll have to be on your best behavior, Peter, and others. Anyway, so I would suggest that rather than using the chat function on this, because I don't necessarily know how to control that, rather than use that, I'd like you to write down your questions if you can, and then let's ask them at the end. The reply all on chat sometimes can be very that can be a bit distracting for everyone if they're popping up frequently. So let's hold the chat until the end. We are going to allow time for question and answers, and everybody will be unmuted during that time for that. So let's see. Now, disclaimer. This webinar and the information presented is for informational and educational purposes only. There's no doctor-patient relationship that is intended nor created. There's no medical diagnosis being made here, and nor are there any medical recommendations provided in this information, purely for information purposes only. There may be anecdotal stories of patients like me who have succeeded in mitigating their cough, and there may be empirical data presented. The effects of tracking, however, these stories should be considered should not be considered recommendations. As with any other medical condition, you should discuss it with your physician and only undertake new approaches after having that discussion with your physician. Second, another important thing, there is no conflict of interest between Pulmonary Success Circles and the presenters in this webinar. As most of you know, Pulmonary Success Circles is not even a corporation. It's a group on the internet who are filled with volunteers who volunteer their time to put together these groups. And so that's what Pulmonary Success Circles is. We have no commercial interest, no business or commercial relationship between Pulmonary Success Circles and the presenters, nor do I have any sort of personal or business relationship with Hyfe or its officers. Okay, so with all that being said now, I think we've got most of our presenters, most of our guests are in the room. Let's get to the presentation. Quickly, I discovered our presenters through my own research for something to help me with chronic cough. If those of you that know me, I've had pulmonary fibrosis diagnosed in 2020 with about 30% remaining lung function. And I went through some severe times of coughing. I was going through a couple bottles of Delsum a week and trying all sorts of things to help with my cough and my problems. I found, let me see, let's get that unmuting. Let's see if we can mute that one. No ways, there we go. I did find some things to help me over time, but most significant is I discovered a concept of tracking my cough. And when I started tracking my cough, folks, I was shocked. I said, I looked at it, it was 800 times per day. Peter, I need to ask you to mute, please. Let me see. Okay. Never mind, I got you. Done. Okay. So I was coughing 800 times a day. After a while of managing that and being aware of it, I got it down to about 400 a day. And then I began to apply some new techniques that I learned. And today it's averaging around 200 coughs per day. And bear in mind that a cough is sometimes that's three coughs. That's not one. So it's but it is very accurate the way my coughs have been tracked. So I found Dr. Small and Reid through the app that they built, and it's been very helpful for me. So I wanted them to come on and show more people about it. And one of the people in one of my groups also talked to me last week. She's new to the group and a fellow Pulmonary Fibrosis Foundation ambassador. And she told me she's been using the cough tracker for 2 years. And how helpful it's been in her own personal life, alleviating some of that just persistent cough. So anyway, with that in mind, Dr. Small and Reid Moorsmith, Dr. Small is the Chief Medical Officer for Hyfe, and Reid Moorsmith is the CEO. Dr. Small has spent his career focusing on solutions to improve health globally. He was trained in epidemiology and was the chief medical resident at University of California, San Francisco during the dawn of the HIV epidemic, which was a tough time to be in epidemiology. He completed an infectious disease fellowship and spent about a decade on the faculty at Stanford Medical School. So with that all that done, let's hand it over to my co-host, Reid Moorsmith and Dr. Peter Small.
Well, thanks so much, Lee. It's really great to have the opportunity to talk to this group. Reid, if you could jump 2 slides. Well, let me just say that cough is a wonderful thing. If all of us weren't coughing 10 or 20 times a day, our lungs would fill up with the lunch that went down the wrong windpipe, or with the secretions that are generated. And yet it's also, I know from my time as a clinician, an important symptom and evidence of underlying diseases like COPD, asthma, CHF, lung cancer. And as I've learned in the last 30 years, cough can itself be a disease. And I have a chronic cough. I cough 40 to 80 times a day at baseline. I'm just getting over it. I'm now coughing about 300 to 400 times a day. And in this case, the cough is not helpful. It is just the disease itself. Now the challenge, next slide, here is in distinguishing between what is helpful for the diagnosis and the management and the better treatment. And despite living in this era of precision health, in which everything gets measured, you go see your doctor, they take your weight, your blood pressure.
We accidentally muted the presenter.
I'm not looking at the slides right now. Reid.
Yeah, sorry, the slides seem to have gotten screwed up. I'm going to stop that share and start another one.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll continue on without the slides, and then you can just catch up. So, the focus of today's talk is what I consider to be, for me, as both a healthcare provider and as a chronic cougher, transformational technology. It's basically the ability, it's like a Fitbit for cough. It's the ability to continually and passively monitor the frequency of your cough, and then to create data which shows you exactly how much you're coughing. Now, the technology that we'll be discussing today is a phone app. It runs, you can download it, and Reid will go through in some detail what its functions are. We're also in conversations with the FDA about a watch, which will serve many of the same functions. That will be a regulated medical device. And But all of these do the same thing. They allow you to see how much you're coughing and to track this continually over time. Next slide. Now, this is enabled by technology that I know Lee has been familiar with for 20 years, and that is artificial intelligence. The key to artificial intelligence is to have the right, appropriate, unbiased big data sets. And so Hyfe has the world's largest cough database. We have about 22 billion data points, including coming from more than 100,000 users. Excuse me, 43 million coughs from 160 countries and 46 trials. Next slide. And the way, I'm not going to get into the weeds on this, but just to let you know how it works, essentially what the app does is it's continually monitoring the sound level. It's not listening. It's just like that little dial on the old stereos. You know, it just recognizes sound levels, and when that goes bing up into the red and drops back down, as you would have with an explosive sound like a cough or a dog bark or a door slamming, it grabs a half a second, and then it takes that and does this AI magic and extracts some key elements of it that I don't even dream of understanding, and then runs that through a second algorithm, which has been trained on all that wealth of data I just described, and allows it to say that's a cough and that's not. The way to understand this is to think about Google Photos. You know, nobody sat down and told Google Photos that it's a cat if it has pointed ears that lay down, but it's a dog if the ears stick up or whatever. They just gave it millions of pictures of cats and dogs, and they allowed the AI to sort it out. And that's what we've done with this massive data set. And we've now got this reduced to an algorithm which runs on the device itself, so that no sounds are stored and never leave either the phone that you're using. Next slide. So what we're left with is something that, for myself, who've been coughing for 3 decades, has been really helpful in understanding what's going on. It's convenient in that it runs on my mobile phone. It's continuous, passive and unobtrusive. So it's running, I don't even know it. It can run for days and weeks and months. I'm really interested in how my COVID cough is drifting down over the last 2 weeks. It's fully automated, meaning that I don't have to do anything with it. I just pop it open and I can see what's going on. It's privacy preserving. It's not listening to me. It's just monitoring sound levels and then saying cough or not. And it's highly accurate. And we're next slide, in conversation now with the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. This is a summary of the data that we've presented to them on the accuracy of this. We had patients wear the Hyfe monitor and also, under informed consent, record a day in their life, and then we listened and we counted the cough. We compared the two, and what you see is the human listening and cough counting in black, and Hyfe's automated algorithm in red. And if it were perfect, those lines would overlap. It's not perfect, but it's pretty darn close. We pick up 90% of the coughs as people go about their activities of daily living, meaning they're riding on the subway or they're watching TV, and we generate about 1 false positive an hour. So next slide. And we have, over the last 4 years, been really focused not just on creating a product and not just in understanding the needs of the users of that product, but trying to advance the science of cough itself. So we have now 46 different studies that have used our technology, focused on a dozen different indications, including asthma, COPD, congestive heart failure, bronchiectasis. The list goes on and on. And we've now got over 100,000 users of this app. Next slide. And I wanted to just show this one study that we did in collaboration with Chuck Daly at the National Jewish in Denver, in which they use airway hygiene to help folks with bronchiectasis to clear their airways. And they've been doing this for decades. And yet this was the first time that they were ever able to see the impact of the treatments that they were administering. And importantly, that the patients themselves could see what they were getting from this. So on the left side, you see the number of coughs on the y-axis and the trend in days on the x-axis. And you can see in all 5 of these patients, there was a gratifying decrease in their cough in a matter of days when they underwent this airway hygiene training that they provide at National Jewish. Next slide. So that's my attempt to summarize the importance of cough and the technology, how it works, and some of the ways that we're pushing the science of cough forward. I'm going to turn it over now to Reid, who is really focused on how this technology can be designed to improve the lives of patients like yourselves.
Thanks, Peter. And
I'll go on mute so you don't have to hear me coughing.
With one small correction, with all due respect to Lee, I am in a way, I'm the CEO, but that stands for Chief Experience Officer, not Chief Executive Officer. Our boss and good friend, Joe Brew, is the CEO of Hyfe. And as Chief Experience Officer, it's my job to understand the experience of people who have problematic cough and to turn that experience into useful products and services. And so today I'm going to focus on our premium app, our main app, Cough Pro. Some of you may have also encountered Cough Tracker, which Hyfe also owns and runs. And I can talk at the end about why we have 2 if you want, and what's happening with Cough Tracker. But I'm going to focus on Cough Pro and what it can do for people who have cough and want to understand it better. Next slide. So the first place to start is that there's a giant chasm between subjective experience of cough and objective measurement of cough. Now, this giant chasm wasn't known until quite recently, because until Hyfe came along, nobody could track cough for long enough to really handle on what the objective measurement of cough looks like over time. So on the left, we have a visual analog scale, 0 to 100, which is trying to gauge how is your cough, or how does your cough feel? And all of you have had cough. I'm sure have been asked to do the VAS and probably to do the Leicester cough questionnaire and maybe some other cough tools. And they're geared towards getting at your experience of cough, which is real and important and absolutely critical to managing your care. However, it turns out that we as people are not so good at using our sense of what's going on to know how many coughs we're uttering. And there are probably lots of reasons for it. One, cough, especially for people with lots of cough, is not fully conscious. And also we get acclimated to how much we're coughing. And so on the right, we have a study that was done in South Korea that shows 4 cases of some things that happen when you give people the visual analog scale and also count their coughs. You have people like case 9, who that person just pretty much decides this is the green line is the subjective cough measurement. My cough is about the same, even though the blue line is showing that that person's cough is going up and down pretty dramatically from 1 cough per hour to 10 coughs per hour. And then you have case 14 to the top right, where that person is outstanding for 5 days and then really misses this big change in their cough. And do we know why? No, we don't know why. This is an area of active research that Hyfe very much wants to lead on, is how does this sense of the subjective and objective cough counting, how do those come together? Because there's some relationship, but we don't know what it is, and it's not currently captured in subjective measures that we have. Next slide. So we've built this app, Cough Pro, that helps people understand their cough to better manage health and to be able to engage in better self-care, but also in better advocacy with the health system and with doctors, and to just improve communication with healthcare providers, which we have seen and heard from many users that it does. Okay, next slide. I'm going to run through a bunch of the features in Cough Pro, and of course, we're happy to take questions either on the science that Peter talked about or the application of it that I'm about to talk about it at the end. So what does Cough Pro do? It objectively measures cough. When you cough, a cough is counted. Does it miss some coughs? Yes, occasionally. If you leave your phone in the glove compartment while you run into the store, will it catch your cough? No, it will not. So the phone has to be on you in order for, or near you, in order for it to catch coughs, but it does it quite accurately within that limitation. It shows cough frequency, so how many coughs per hour. Shows changes over time. We use a statistical test to measure whether your cough is about the same, it's going up or down. And we're able to yield some insights that have never been before available because people weren't able to track cough in real life as people went across about their day, as Peter said. Next slide. So the first thing is basic cough counts. As Lee talked about, as Peter talked about, how many times in a day do I cough? And the app allows people to see that on an hourly basis, on a daily basis, weekly, monthly, or even compare year on year. And these simple bar charts are kind of the most basic way to see how many times have I coughed. And the one thing to say is that some people use the app 24/7 and pretty much have it on all the time. And so their cough count and their cough rate are going to be exactly the same. Other people use the app sometimes, but not other times. And it's, for those people, we need to have rates in addition to coughs, because if I had the app on for 30 minutes in an hour and I coughed 10 times, that would be at the rate of 20 coughs an hour. So next slide. We convert those counts into rates. And again, these are same daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, and broken down here you can see by hour. It shows you the amount of time you've tracked in the last 24 hours, or if you're looking at weekly, it would say out of 168 hours, the number of hours in a week. And then you see your rate history down below. And this is where people can start to compare, how am I doing today? What's going on today? Did I not drink enough today? Is the air quality bad? What are my triggers that are causing my cough to go up, down, or stay about the same? Next slide. So the cough trend widget, the feature, uses a kind of complicated statistical test to compare the last 3 days of cough, or the last 3 weeks of cough, or the last 3 months of cough to the current period. And it says, that seesaw arrow is telling you, is your cough going up, staying about the same, or going down? And this is really important because cough is hugely variable, as you all know, by hour, by day, by week, and so on. And it's not like blood pressure, where we have a gold standard that says 120/80, or temperature. We know we should be about 98.6, or actually 97.5, or something like that. And it's pretty stable unless something happens. Because cough is so variable, by applying a statistical test, we can show people whether their cough is meaningfully diverging from the established baseline. So quite useful for that. Next slide, please. One of the things, because we collect data over time, we can do is we can show, and because we accurately count each cough, we can show when coughs come together in a cluster, these things called bouts. We've called them bursts in the app. And a burst right now is any 4 or more coughs with no gap of 5 or more seconds. And we know from what coughers tell us that, for some people anyway, bursts are much more meaningful than simply the number of coughs. If I cough 15 or 20 times in a row, all kinds of things could happen to me. We know that people get headaches. We know that people sometimes vomit. We know people have shortness of breath. We know people have social anxiety or stop doing things that are important to them because of cough bursts. We know lots of people suffer from urinary incontinence because of cough bursts. And so we have this feature in the app that shows how many times you've coughed in a cluster, and then some details of the top clusters or bursts down below, how many coughs were in them and how long they took. Next slide. There's also a cough report. So this is a way to synthesize the information, which you can download to your phone. You can send it to yourself by email. You can share it all the same ways you could share a photo from your phone or by email. And this is your information that you can share with whoever you want. We know lots of people share this with their doctors or healthcare providers, and it provides the basis of much better communication than just like, I have a cough, my cough is bad, I'm coughing a lot, doc, help me. It gives some objective meaning to that feeling or that sense that we have that cough is bad or getting better. Thanks. Next slide. So here's the big development that's happening for us in Cough Pro next month. There's a therapy that's very well supported by evidence that shows up to an 80% reduction in cough, far better than any drug on the market, for certain people with chronic cough. For people who have an unproductive chronic cough, behavioral cough suppression therapy can be and is for many people hugely effective. It's only administered by speech-language pathologists, and the total number of speech-language pathologists in the US who practice BCST, behavioral cough suppression therapy, is something like 200. And so not very many people have access to this. And we are building a wellness version, so it's not a prescription version, of BCST into Cough Pro. It will come as part of the subscription. It's a series of videos and audio and some text that has exercises that people can do that have been shown to reduce cough in many people with chronic cough. And that is coming next month. Next slide. So these are some of the themes that come up over and over again when we talk to users of our apps, Cough Tracker and also Cough Pro. One of the main things they say is, I'm not making this up. Lots of people who have chronic cough, long-time persistent coughs, say that they are not really getting fairly listened to by healthcare providers, by doctors. And having data to share, enables them to say, look, it's real, the app validates them, and they feel more empowered to advocate for themselves. Second thing that people are able to do is to identify patterns. So you can see coughing at night, coughing during the day, coughing after meal times, this person saying outdoors or right after she eats, finding those patterns instead of trying to rely on, in her case, small pieces of paper or a diary is very helpful to many users. And then the final end for many of our users, the most important part is improved communications with doctors, which in lots of cases leads to better treatment. There are only a certain number of arrows in the quiver right now to treat lots of kinds of cough, but at least it enables people to record their coughs, show them to doctors, and so get, in some cases, better help either diagnosing or managing problems. Next slide, please. So the final thing to say is this: we are a business. This is a subscription product. It costs $5.99 a month or $34.99 for a year, which might seem expensive for an app, but is certainly inexpensive compared to 1 or 2 co-payments. And we, I would say that anybody who is interested, but financially that's a stretch, please reach out directly to me. Lee will share my email address after this, and we can certainly make arrangements. We make vouchers available to healthcare practitioners so that they can test it out with their patients to see if it might help them in their communication with their patients in their practice. And if you go to Cough Pro, you'll be able to download the app. If you go to hyfe.ai, you'll be able to learn much more about the science that we've talked about. You can see publications that we've written, and you can learn much more about the company Hyfe. And I'll stop there.
Guys, that can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I've got so many things tracking me right now. Zoom and recording, and my cough tracker app is working. So I try to hide my cough tracker app sometimes when I'm coughing. I actually will. I find it's like having a spouse who you don't want to cough in front of. I go to the bathroom and I like close the door so I can cough one time and it not catch me. So it's very, very accurate and very helpful. But anyway, that's a good presentation. Thanks very much for that. I agree with what you said. I mean, it's one cope. I literally spent, I had to have a bottle of Delson every couple of days, $12 a bottle. I was miserable trying to maintain some cough prevention there. I'm going to let anyone. Again, I have no way to do this that I can see in a nice, easy fashion of getting questions. So I'm going to let people. We'll have a free for all here, and if it turns into a riot, we'll shut it down or something. Or call
we can see there's one question in the comments. E.g. asked the app pick up coughs, or do you manually have to enter them? And in fact, I can show a little demonstration of what it actually looks like in practice. So can you see my screen? Yep. So this is the home screen. It shows how many coughs are happening, counts a cough. If I rap on the table, it won't count it. If the wrong dog barked or I made a certain noise, it might fool the app, but it's pretty good at that. When we go to the insights section, you'll see that today it's recorded 62, and it's just automatically running in the background. My cough rate today is 5.7 per hour. That's because I've been deliberately coughing into it to have some data to show you. But it would, I've talked to people who've had 2,000 coughs in a day. Can see I've had a few bursts today. I can show the detail of a burst. That one lasted 11 seconds, or sorry, 9.5 seconds, and had 11 coughs. And then I can go back and I can look at my cough report. So I wiped my data clean because I was using the developer version of the app before this. So you can't see much data in here, but you'll see I could compare my cough week over week, and it will tell me exactly what that number is. So this bit that says learn, it will say action take soon. This is coming soon. This is this is cough management, the behavioral cough suppression therapy in the app. And then, yeah, there you can see I've earned some badges because of my my expert. I'm not quite to expert, but I'm past researcher in terms of my achievements of how long I've coughed. I can set a tracking reminder and so on. And so that's just to give you a little look and to answer the question that you asked about automatic. Yeah, it automatically tracks my cough.
And Reid, maybe I'll take the next couple of questions. So the question was asked by Sally if it detects other people's cough, and the answer is fundamentally no. I mean, there are a couple of things. The app is designed to work only within about a 3-foot distance, so that someone would have to be pretty close for their cough to be counted. The second point is that in the post-COVID era, people who are coughing get space, so it's uncommon that people are that close to each other. And the third thing is that it's uncommon for people who have a lot of cough to be around people who have a lot of cough. The one place where this sometimes happens is if there are people sharing a bed, and then sometimes it may pick up that cough. But we've done experiments where we have folks who are not coughing bring the app around with them as they go through grocery stores and sort of the activities of daily living. And it's pretty uncommon that it picks up coughs, maybe 1 or 2 an hour. And if you're like me, coughing 400 times a day now after my COVID, it's not going to make a big difference. So the short answer is not for practical purposes.
Can I add one thing to that, Peter?
Yeah.
One of the things that is super important to us as a company is to constantly improve the tools that we have. And so we are actively engaged in an effort to reduce that even pretty small number of other people's coughs that are captured. And we expect continuous improvement as we go along to be able to filter out other people's coughs. So will you find some other people's coughs in there? Maybe now, especially if you live with someone who coughs. But over time, that is going to improve. And by and large, the experience that we have had shared back to us by our users it's not a large problem.
Yeah, and Reid, let me take the question from Jen about feedback we're getting from physicians and how they're using the data. I want to be really clear that this is a health and wellness app. It is not meant to be used, nor is it approved by the Food and Drug Administration for diagnosing and managing medical diseases. We have a product that we're working down that, frankly, rather laborious, time-consuming pathway. We've been in conversation with them for 2 years, and we're hopeful that within a year or so, it will be approved as a medical device that your doctor can use, like an X-ray or pulmonary function tests. But for now, what we're finding is that it's very empowering to patients in the way that Reid described. And then we have these research trials where under strict research conditions and institutional review board approvals, physicians are using this and seeing how it's impacting their practice. And I will say that, the vast majority of doctors, they're kind of blown away by it. The fact that, like, wow, you mean I can actually, when someone comes in and gives me a vague story of cough, I can see how much they're coughing. And when I give them some Pepcid for their GERD, rather than talking to them 6 months later, getting vague results, I can actually see if it made a difference. So in the research setting, we're finding that it's useful, but at this point, it is a wellness app, mostly for your own understanding.
Good. Peter, thank you. I've seen several questions about how it picks up in your purse, in your fanny pack. I carry this, I track 24 hours a day. I want to know a few times when the app stopped working because I used my microphone wrong or something like that, or switch it off. It frustrated me because I want to track 24 hours a day. I work out in a gym. It's very high activity. The music's always too loud and that sort of thing. And I keep it in my pocket. And or sometimes I'll put it up on the machine I'm using. Okay, it never misses a cough because, of course, in a gym, when I get low oxygen, especially, I'm going to cough more often, and so it's helped me with that. Other thing is that in the house, if I keep it, as long as I keep it within the same room, it picks up every cough, and it's really and because I've become conscious of it, I know I don't want it to pick up another cough. I don't want my bed. Nobody's going to see it but me, but I don't want my day to look bad because I cough so much. So I began to apply those cough suppression techniques. That's the power of this app. It's not just, I want to know how many times I cough. The cough suppression techniques are what have taken me from 800 down to 200 per day consistently. There's a lady on this phone, Lisa Reid. And Lisa, if you could unmute yourself, you're a power user of this app. I discovered that in a meeting we had last week and one of our support groups last week. And Lisa, if you're on and could unmute yourself and tell about your experience and how you practically eliminated your cough by some of the wellness things that you've done once the cough tracker app shows you how bad it was. Are you there, Lisa? Maybe not. Well, if you come back on, you are welcome to jump in at any time, Lisa. Let's see. Next question. It's somebody asked a question: how long before there is enough data on what you can do to help alleviate coughs? You guys answer that question. I've got my own opinion as a user of it, but
I mean, I'm not going to give you the answer from the perspective of scientist. I can give you the answer that users say, and usually it's about a week, maybe 10 days before they start to see patterns emerge. And the longer you track, the more you'll learn, particularly if you're undergoing any treatment or you're modifying your own behavior to manage your cough. So its value is in its ongoing measurement. I think most people say that it takes them, kind of a week or 2 weeks before they really see what's happening with their cough as it ebbs and flows day by day.
Okay, any other questions there?
Somebody asked if it will work in a purse or fanny pack. So, I mean, you talked about this a little bit, Lee. It kind of depends on the purse or the fanny pack. If your fanny pack is in the front and is not too thick, I'm almost certain it will work. If your fanny pack was, heavy duty leather and was actually on your fanny, probably not. So it's designed not to pick up really distant coughs. Otherwise, it would be picking up too many coughs in the environment. So it works best when it's within arm's length, 3-4 feet. But it will still work. It works in my pocket just fine. Put it that way.
Yeah, and I think also it's important to emphasize the power of continuous monitoring, because like a Fitbit itself, if I'm wearing my Fitbit and I'm pounding nails, I'm going to have a big active hour. but it's really the overall trend, and kind of squint a little bit and say, like, wow, look at this. There was that 1 hour, but overall I've kind of been couch potato recently. And so, I think that a lot of the understanding of this is going to come from you users yourself. I mean, we're a bunch of cough nerds. You would not believe how scattered around the globe, there are people who are sitting there listening to sound, saying that's a cough and that's not. In our research studies, there are data scientists, there are software engineers, and we're all focused on cough. But at our core, we are a patient-centric, science-based organization. And the only way we can get better at helping you and make a tool that's useful for you is feedback. So if you're using the app and you have an issue, please let us know. We love we love your apps. We much prefer hey, I was using your app in the gym and I coughs, So it's that feedback about how what we're doing can be more helpful to you that's really going to allow us to build the products that are going to make a difference.
So Sandy asked if I said that the app includes cough suppression techniques, and the answer is not quite yet, but next month it will. Cough management, as we call it in this wellness version, is behavior cough suppression therapy in wellness form, and that is launching I'm going to say July 10th. It could be a few days before or a few days after that, but it's coming very soon.
That's great news, Reid. I'm really happy to see that, because I've had to find my way around the internet looking at various pulmonologists and different speech language pathologists on YouTube who gave techniques, and there's lots out there, and some of them work. Many of you have heard me talk about the acupressure technique for stopping a burst when you can't stop coughing. But the ones you and I talked about with the speech language pathology and how do you suppress that cough, that's been extremely effective. It's not just measuring the cough, it's managing it. And when you feel a cough coming on, just like this one of your techniques is to simply take a glass, drink a small sip of water. It gives your mouth and throat something new to do other than cough. And it's amazing. You really become a student of how to prevent yourself from coughing. One lady in one of my support groups told me, she said, my husband is so tired of me coughing. She said, he asked me the other morning, can't you just save all those coughs up and cough one big time instead of 100 little times? So it's not just for us, it's for our partners or our animals or whatever.
I see Stephanie's. Yeah, I see Stephanie's question about throat clearing, and I'm going to give two answers. The first is a simple one. No. The second is a more complicated one, and it has to do with the way acoustic AI works and this whole revolution that we're in of how science and computer technology can do things that we thought previously only humans could do. And that is to distinguish the sound of a cough from a non-cough. And so in order to do that, we just have to give it lots of examples of cough and non-cough. And just to go down the little nerdy rabbit hole here, we have a 32-page manual on the difference between a cough and a non-cough. And in that manual, we explicitly show diagrams and we have examples and we distinguish throat clears from cough. And they have a very different acoustic profile. You know, cough has a big attack to it. And a throat clear is kind of a and so we use that to annotate.
Peter froze, yes.
This is a scary freeze. You never want to freeze like that.
So we're lucky to have on the line with us.
Power of this
there we
AI revolution that Lee's been involved in for 25 years, I think, is exactly that. It's the power of well-annotated data.
And just to fill in maybe that small, you froze for a sec, Peter. So we have deliberately trained the algorithm to exclude throat clears because what we're focused on is cough. In the future, we could probably have a separate category of distinction that says count throat clears, but currently we are not counting them by design.
Okay, any other ones that we have to cover, or if not, we're going to give everyone back 8 minutes of their day.
Can I add one thing that will only take 1 minute, Lee?
You may.
Which I neglected to say. So if any of you are interested in cough monitoring, but are not sure you want to use the app, or would just like to have a conversation directly with one of us, probably me, about it, please reach out. I'd be thrilled to talk to any of you who have way more experience than I do addressing your cough. And I'm sure I'll learn from you, even if you do not become a dedicated Cough Pro user. And then the last thing to say is, if you have used Cough Tracker, we do have two products. They are a bit overlapping. Cough Tracker is going to sunset in about 3 months. It's free. We are a small company that needs to stay in business. Cough Tracker was underwritten by Merck, the drug company. And when Merck's drug was rejected by the FDA late last year, they ended the partnership. They adored us. They thought the app was great, but they don't have a drug that's coming on the market. So they weren't interested in paying us to keep it on the market. And so we've been trying to make sure that everybody has a good home for their cough tracking. It will take a few months to get to this sunset, but Cough Pro is going to be our consumer app quite soon.
And just one last thought, Lee, as the chief medical officer, it's my job to coordinate the clinical trials that advance not just the app, but also the entire field of cough science. And we are constantly looking for participants in various trials. And we would appreciate anyone who's interested in who has a cough, who's interested in participating in studies to let us know. And it's really those volunteers who we owe the debt of gratitude that this technology gets delivered.
Good. Well, you're in the midst of a bunch of trial experts here. We've got people on this phone who are doing drug trials and all sorts of things with pulmonary fibrosis and other types of lung disease. So we're familiar with that. And I will publish Reid's email when I do I'll do a reply back to the entire group of folks who signed up, who came to the webinar, who didn't. And I'll give you the recording of the webinar in the next 24 hours. I'll send you that recording. You can use it yourself. You can share it with others in your groups, that sort of thing. You're welcome to use it in any way you see fit right there. And and it'll also, in the email, I will give you Reid's contact info, email address, so that you can reach out to him with any experiences you have. I found that their support line is very, very effective and very quick to respond. Before I knew Reid, that's how I met Reid. I met the chief experience officer because I complained about something on the product, and boom, he was all over it. Love it. Anyway, thanks everyone so much for coming today. We hope it's been valuable for you. If not, we hope we entertained you. Go in peace.
Thank you all.